it's not everybody who's willing to go out into the unknown, can't see land in all directions, and haven't been able to for a couple hundred miles. It's a certain type of person that's curious and interested in having a day that they don't know at the beginning of it what they're going to emerge with at the end.
Okay, good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Kerrie Niemeyer. I'm the marketing director for Wells Gray Tours, and it is my pleasure to be here this morning. And just coming on now is joining us. We have a very special guest joining us this morning. This is Martin Aldrich. He is an expedition guide for Adventure Canada. So thank you so much for being here this morning, Martin.
Thanks, my pleasure. Looking forward to it.
So this morning we are going to share two absolutely amazing destinations with you and learn all about traveling with Adventure Canada and what life looks like on board the Ocean Endeavour. Of course, Wells Gray Tours and I know Adventure Canada, we are so thrilled that the travel restrictions are being lifted and travel is moving forward. We have partnered with Adventure Canada since 2015 and sold some really fantastic destinations. So we are so thrilled to sort of get the boat back in the water and get sailing again. I know Martin is going to share a little bit more about the history of Adventure Canada. They are a family-owned and operated business, just like Wells Gray Tours. Been in business for 30 years, taking people to some of the most remote places in the world, really places right off the beaten track. I personally had the pleasure of traveling with Adventure Canada in 2019. So very lucky before, of course, the pandemic hit us, and I went on the High Arctic Explorer cruise, which is a trip we're going to talk about this morning. And I can tell you honestly that it was one of the most extraordinary trips I've ever taken in my life. Going to these remote places and communities and floating in icebergs and seeing walruses and polar bears. I mean, it just does not get any better. And I think one thing I would like to share, one of the most impressive things about Adventure Canada and their company is their commitment to sustainable travel and the celebration and respect that they really have for the biodiversity on our planet. And they really do share with people, of course, the joy of traveling, but in the most sustainable way possible, so that we can all learn about these destinations and these other cultures and help protect them for our future generations, which is just so, so important. And I can say they really do hire the best of the best. Their expedition teams, you are surrounded the entire tour by scientists, researchers, historians, musicians, poets, filmmakers, the list goes on. And they really want you to not only understand the science behind what you're seeing, but you're constantly deepening your connection with the people in the land. And they're bringing on the people from the local communities to sing and dance and do art. It's just phenomenal. I could go on all morning, so I won't. But it's just a product we absolutely love here at Wells Gray Tours. So this morning we have 2 destinations to share with you. And just a couple housekeeping things before we jump in. We will take some questions at the end. So if a question pops up in your mind throughout the presentation this morning, go ahead and put it in the chat box and we'll address all the questions at the end. And also stay tuned. At the end, we are going to give away 2 $500 Adventure Canada credits. These can be used on a new booking only. So just keep that in mind. If you're already booked, there are some other amazing trips that Martin's going to share with us this morning. But we're going to do the draw at the very end, and everyone who registered for the webinar this morning, your name will go in that draw. So don't worry if you had any technical difficulties and you're watching the recording later today or tomorrow. We'll make sure we get your name in the draw. So let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I did play a couple of videos just at the beginning, and I'll send you the links to those with the recording just in case you missed them. So our first tour up that we are selling in 2022 with Adventure Canada is Sable Island and Atlantic Canada Cruise. So this will be departing in June. It's June 21st. It's a 14-day tour. It is selling out very, very quickly. Keep in mind, Adventure Canada was also on a pause for the last 1.5 years, so they are booking up very fast for future trips. We just have 9 seats left and 5 staterooms available. And it is a hiker level 3, so it's a high activity level. Martin's going to talk a little bit more about what kind of activity will be involved. But I just want to point out that for the Wells Gray Tours portion, flights will be arranged from your home cities, so whether that's Vancouver, Victoria, Kamloops, Kelowna, Penticton. But for this trip, we'll be flying through Toronto and then on to St. John's, Newfoundland. We have 2 nights in Newfoundland at the Delta Hotel, an excellent location right downtown. It's near the harbor. So we will have a couple days to relax before boarding the Ocean Endeavour. And a Wells Gray Tours tour director will be with you. And you're going to check in the next morning. Just going to go to the next. You will have a leisure morning to relax. And then in the afternoon, we have put together a guided local tour with a local guide, plus the Wells Gray Tours guide. And we are going to visit some of the highlights around St. John's. We'll go visit Cabot Tower, the Confederation Building, and even go out to the lighthouse at Cape Spear. Then in the early evening, there is a reception held by Adventure Canada. So you can have an orientation, and then a dinner for all of our Wells Grey travelers will be held, which will be a traditional Newfoundland jigs dinner. So really fun couple days before you start the tour. Then the other trip we are selling this summer is the High Arctic Explorer cruise. So this is in August. 15 days leaves August the 11th. And once again, Wells Grey Tours will be flying you from your home cities. And for this trip, you'll be flying directly to Ottawa. And we have 2 nights in Ottawa. And now this is also selling out very quickly. So limited space, we have 5 seats left and just 2 staterooms available. And once again, we'll have the next morning to relax, and then we'll have a local guide who will join us and tour around the Ottawa city highlights. You will even have time, if you like, to book a tour to tour the Parliament buildings. Then you'll have your reception with Adventure Canada for your orientation, and then Wells Grey Tours has put together a dinner for you back at the hotel. So now from here, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to let Martin take over, and he is going to tell us all about what you'll experience with Adventure Canada and on board the Ocean Endeavour.
There we go. Wonderful. So hopefully you guys can see my screen now. We all good to go?
Yes, looks good.
Perfect. All right. Good morning, everybody. Happy to be here, and we're going to be talking about exploring Atlantic Canada and the High Arctic. So our Atlantic Canada Explorer and our High Arctic Explorer expeditions, as Kerrie already overviewed. I am Martin Aldrich. I'm a business development manager, so that means I get to work with wonderful partners like Wells Grey. And I'm also part of the onboard team. That's actually how I started with the company, as an expedition guide, Zodiac driver, and originally a yoga instructor for the wellness program. So this is a photo of me on the right there in Centaurus, the Zodiac, dropping passengers onto the land. And this is really one of my favorite places to be. Driving guests ashore, and I think this guest's reaction with the arm in the air really encapsulates what I love to do, which is to get people out onto the land into a new place to explore and have a lot of fun. I originally joined the company with my family, and that's my mother and my father and my aunt. And this is from our 2018 trip on the North Atlantic Saga. And we're super excited. You can see the big smiles because we all just saw puffins for the first time. And this is on Fair Isle off the coast of Scotland. And the original founding members of Adventure Canada are, skipped ahead, are actually from Scotland, Scottish heritage. So you see Matthew Swan on the right there, and then the original founding members on the left, Bill, his brother Bill Swan, and their friend Dave Fries. Their mission was really to take people to more of the off the beaten path places in Canada. So they started by going overland to Labrador and Baffin Island, and then started to realize some of the limitations of going to the more remote places overland in terms of the amenities available. So they started chartering vessels in the early 90s. One of the early trips that they did was to take travelers, I should say, up to the North Pole for a round of golf. And this is one of the photos from that trip. I think this is 1991. The legacy of the company continues with the next generation of the Swan family. So you have here Cedar on the left, Alana on the right, and Matthew James Swan. And I'm very happy to be part of that next generation, taking people to remote places, and really happy to be working for an award-winning company. As you can see, a number of the awards on the bottom of your screen there. And for the 4th year running, we were voted Best Adventure Cruise Line by USA Today. So big honor there, and super proud to work for a family-run Canadian company. We operate now on the Ocean Endeavour, and this is an ice class vessel. So it's a double reinforced hull, specifically designed for working in the polar regions. And we have 20 Zodiacs on board. So those 20 Zodiacs allow us to get off of the ship and onto the land, really to explore even further than the expedition vessel can go. And we have 3 types of excursions that are included in the cost of the trip. And these are Zodiac cruises, so going off of the ship in the Zodiac and spending the duration on board the Zodiac. So approximately 45 minutes to 2 or 2.5 hours. This is a picture from the east coast of Canada, as you can tell. But we also, of course, do Zodiac cruises in the Arctic as well. So this is a time lapse that I took up in Greenland of a Zodiac cruise. You can see it's obviously sped up as the ice is moving, and you can see there Zodiac is zipping across the screen. So a great way to explore even further, a great way to get right close to the wonders of big ice and to see wildlife even closer as well. Then we have expedition landing. So this is where we're going off of the ship and onto the land with those Zodiacs. And then we're going for a variety of hikes. So as Kerrie mentioned, it is an active trip, but it's certainly going to cater to all different mobility levels. The big thing to keep in mind is it will always require a few steps down into the Zodiac. So the side gates will take about 4 steps to get down, and then a bigger step down into the Zodiac. But there's always help, lots of help. The driver of the Zodiac, as well as the crew and a staff member, will always be there at a minimum, and often there's more than 3 available to help. And that goes for the same thing as when we get onto the land off of the Zodiac. Always lots of helping hands with the large number of staff that we have. So you'll see I'm alternating between East Coast and Arctic photos, so you get a sense of what it would be like on the Atlantic Canada Explorer, as well as the High Arctic Explorer trip. Really great to be able to get out onto the land. And so and with all the different mobility levels that we'll have with the passengers on board, we will offer multiple different levels of intensity. These will all be laid out in a briefing on board the ship prior to landing, so you'll be able to know what is available for you, and you can pick and choose. Sometimes we have signups just in terms of knowing the number of people that will want to do a particular type of excursion, but also there are excursions where it's perhaps going and painting with the artist, and so there's only a limited number of spaces. It could be going out with the ornithologist and looking for birds. So there's lots of different options with all the different staff members. So there's something for everybody. We also have community visits. So these are quite special with Adventure Canada, getting into quite remote places. We have local staff on board the ship, but we also hire locally in the communities that we visit. So you're going to actually be visiting and touring around a community with someone who lives there, often, ending in their home, perhaps having some tea. A great way to support the community is, of course, by supporting them by buying arts and crafts. It's always a wonderful way to experience a place by visiting with someone who actually lives here. Lots of different cultural exchange will happen, whether it's seeing Inuit games performed, throat singing. Perhaps the church is putting on a performance and you can listen to that while you're in the community. As Kerrie mentioned, where we've had a pause in travel, but that's also been a good time to look at how we operate and updating a lot of different aspects of our operation. And I think as much as we want to get back to travel, I think we've all learned a lot in this time. Certainly, I've brushed up on my webinar skills, that's for sure. We've also implemented further safety and hygiene protocols with COVID in mind. So we are Safe Travels certified. So this is from the World Travel and Tourism Council, and this recognizes us as a global leader in adopted health and hygiene protocols. It is, of course, a changing landscape, and so we're continuing to update as more information comes in, and we're really looking forward to operating in the 2022 season. We also extended our flexible booking policy. So this allows a one-time transfer to a different expedition with no fees or no penalties, as long as this is done prior to 120 days before the expedition is to depart. We've enhanced our cancellation policy as well. So this is really for travelers' flexibility and security. So certainly inquire with Wells Gray to find out more about our flexible booking policy. Okay, so life on board the Ocean Endeavour. This really is a home away from home. I've spent a number of days on board of this ship, 13 different expeditions over the last 6 years with Adventure Canada. So I know the ship quite well. There are 9 different decks, and we really use decks 3 through 9 primarily. Lots of different lounge spaces. There are 3 lounges. There's a restaurant. We have full amenities for a spa and a gym. There's a few different bars. There's a pool, a hot tub, and 2 saunas. So lots of modern amenities, lots of comfort on board. We have 10 different cabin categories, ranging from shared and interior cabins all the way up to the suites that we have, such as the captain's suite in category 10, which has the same view as the captain off the bow of the ship. Here are a few of the different lounges, and then on the left are 2 pictures from the dining room. We have 3 different meals included in the cost of the trip. So that would be breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We also have afternoon tea, and we can cater to all different dietary needs and restrictions and allergies. Just obviously important to let us know in advance of the trip. We also do source local provisions along the way, so we can make traditional dishes, and that's all part of our Taste of Place program that we offer on board a number of the different expeditions. While on board, of course, you're going to be rubbing shoulders with the expedition staff and learning all about their specialties. So we pride ourselves on the large number of specialty guests and resource staff expedition team members that we have on board. It's a 7-to-1 ratio, so we're about 30 to 35 expedition team members on board to a maximum of 198 passengers. That allows for a lot of one-on-one time, lots of breakout sessions, lots of different presentations, including cultural presentations from our Inuit staff, especially when we're in the Arctic. But we'll also, of course, have East Coast staff when we're on the East Coast of Canada, whether they're from Cape Breton or Newfoundland. We're going to have art workshops and beading workshops. You can, in fact, make your own carving as well, with Derek Pottle pictured here, one of our amazing culturalists on board. But of course, we do talk about the sciences as well. So you can hear from Chris Wolf about archaeology, and you can learn more about the Thule sites that you're about to visit on the land. And then Chris Wolf will be there with you on the land and showing you, prior the actual drawings of what you might see, and then what it actually looks like live in person, and explaining a little bit more detail about these locations. Our Inuit culturalists will be on the land as well when we're in the Arctic. So you'll see throat singing, drum dancing, and of course, learning more about the people of the North and their incredible resilience. Our artists will be there, as I already mentioned. You can join our art program and be out on the land painting en plein air. Lots of interactive sessions. Sometimes we have our authors do storytelling sessions. It's hard to cover everything that we will do, and in fact, it's very difficult to actually experience them all on board the ship because we have so many concurrent presentations happening. But that's part of the program. We offer as much as we can. And you have to really come on board to experience all of the different options that we have. Sometimes the musicians will just break out into the song and be out there while we're out on the land, and a great way to get even more immersed. It feels like you're never really leaving. When you're on the land, you're coming back onto the ship with people from the place that you're visiting. And just a side note here, you can see our staff member here with the boots that are also included in the cost of the trip. So these are free rental, great waterproof and warm boots for getting off of the Zodiac and stepping into the water. Because we do also, we often do have wet landings, meaning you're stepping down into water. You can bring your own boots, but these are included. Also included would be the jacket that you see on the gentleman on the left. This is a waterproof, windproof, and an insulated layer. This is included in the cost of the trip and yours to take home afterwards. Also included would be our Nikon camera share program. So we have a number of high-end digital SLRs and lenses that you can try out. You can learn from our professional photographer on board, and they're going to teach you everything you need to know about how to use this camera, but also how to take a better photograph. Lots of sessions on board the ship, but also out on the land. So that's a little bit of overview of how we operate and the different things that are included. And then here on your screen, you're going to see the full overview of our 2022 season. They're all color coded with the legend on the left. So you can see the red Mighty St. Lawrence line is down coming out of the St. Lawrence on the bottom of the screen. And each of these, it's important to know that each of these trips are typically run just once per season. This is essentially a series of expeditions that all run back to back. The exceptions there being Newfoundland Circumnavigation and High Arctic Explorer, which are run twice. You can book all of these expeditions through Wells Gray. And of course, I'm going to be covering the two expeditions that they're running groups on in 2022. So as we zoom into the East Coast, you can see the three expeditions that we're running in 2022, the Mighty St. Lawrence, Atlantic Canada Explorer, and Newfoundland Circumnavigation, which is run twice. And we're going to cover Atlantic Canada Explorer. So this is a 12-day expedition. Your eyes are probably drawn to the bottom corner, and of course, one of our specialty guests that has joined us each year for the last, about 18 years or so. We have Margaret Atwood joining. She will be talking on board of this expedition a few times, and specifically about what it was like to grow up on the east coast of Canada, as she was actually raised in a few different places, actually, because they did have, their family had a cabin on the east coast, but they also were raised in Quebec as well. So very cool to experience an expedition with a famous Canadian author. What we're going to do now is run through somewhat of a day by day. Just the other thing to recognize with the map shown here, we have approximately 6 dots shown. We try to get off the ship every single day. There will be a day at sea here initially going from St. John's to Sable Island, but other than that, we're going to be trying to get off the ship probably 2 times a day, if not 3 sometimes, getting out onto the land to stretch the legs and to experience everything that these places have to offer. So while the different dots are showing the highlights, we will be getting into more locations that are even shown here. And it is an expedition, so you do have to be flexible. We will go to places that aren't even on the itinerary that we just happen to think, okay, this looks like a great option, diverting for wildlife and all those kind of things. So starting in St. John's, you have your pre-trip excursions with Wells Gray, so you'll be able to experience a bit more of what St. John's has to offer. And then when we actually board on the first day of the expedition with Adventure Canada, you're going to be heading out through the Narrows and out into the Atlantic Ocean. And we're going to head south from here. So we'll be heading down to Sable Island. Growing up in Halifax myself, this was a place that I heard about in school and sounded kind of like this magical, mystical place. And it is. I've been there. I was there in 2016. And to be honest, I had to pinch myself quite a bit. This is where the wild horses roam. This is a shot actually that I took from my visit there in 2016. You're on a golden sand crescent-shaped island, Sandspit Island, and you have wild horses roaming all around you. It's kind of hard to picture. I mean, I'm obviously showing you pictures, but it is really quite a different place. Something you'd expect maybe from the Caribbean, but this is off the coast of Nova Scotia. At last count in 2019, there were 390 wild horses roaming on this island. It's about 25 kilometers long. And there are also approximately 400,000 gray seals that come here to breed every year. There's, for those birders out there, there's also 350 different species of birds that are on the islands that have been recorded. 16 different species that breed here. There are different kinds of terns, gulls, ducks, and other shorebirds, and even more rare birds like the Ipswich sparrow, which is pictured here. And this is the only songbird that's on Sable Island, and it nests exclusively on the island. So from Sable Island, you'll see here, I've circled the Marine Gully. This is a protected area, and this will be where we go to after our 2 days on Sable Island. So we'll have 2 different days on Sable Island, hopefully 3 or 4 different excursions. I know we'll try to do a Zodiac cruise along the southern spit, but we also try to get out onto the land. And if you saw the video that we started with, there is the opportunity to hike up to the top point on Bald Dune, which is a sand dune at the top of Sable Island. But when we're going through the Marine Gully after visiting Sable Island, we do actually need special permission to visit this eco zone. We do drop our speed considerably as is mandated, but we're really, we're lucky enough to travel through here. We are one of the few operations that is able to go through. We have researchers that are actively doing research while heading through the Marine Gully to observe the different bird species that are flying here, as well, and in terms of bird density, as well as the different marine mammals that we'll see. And that's because there are 16 different species of whales and dolphins that are in this area, including the endangered bottlenose whale. So you can take part in the citizen science program and learn a little bit more. You can ask questions to the researchers. They'll be on the bridge and on the deck, and they'll be looking for these guys. These would be humpback whales, and this is in the Marine Gully. Okay, from here we're going to move just east of Sydney, and we'll be exploring the fortress of Louisburg, or Louisburg. This is a National Historic Site, and this will really transport you back to French colonial life between about 1713 and 1758. This is when the French and English crowns were fighting over the New World. This fortress was built in the early 1700s, and this is from Louis XIV, and it was then reconstructed twice in the 1960s and 1970s most recently. It's actually one of the largest reconstructions in North America. I believe it's actually the largest reconstruction in North America. There are over 65 buildings that were redone, as well as the 360-foot long King Bastion barracks. We'll actually have a private tour around the fort, and we are looking to arrange a private lunch in the fort as well. Quite an interesting place, really an incredible window into all aspects of life back with the first European settlers. From here, we'll head a little further to the west, up and around Cape Breton, and we're going to be going to the Bird Islands. So we will actually be visiting this official bird sanctuary. It's about a mile off of Cape Dauphin. This is where there are 2 islands that have a very large number of birds that come here to breed every year. This is the largest colony of great cormorants in North America. We also have a number of other different species like the Atlantic puffins, pictured here, razorbills, black guillemots, double-breasted cormorants, black-legged kittiwakes, herring gulls, blue herons, and bald eagles. So we will have a Zodiac cruise here so that we can get even closer to those birds and to the islands. And when we're not busy looking for birds, we'll be able to view the incredible coastline of these islands, and probably, I would imagine, a whale or 2 as well. From here, we'll head around Cape Breton, heading to Chetty Camp with access to the Cabot Trail. So you can see Matthew James here, expedition leader, pulling in a Zodiac into Chetty Camp. This is our touching off point to be able to get up to the Skyline Trail, and this is part of the Cabot Trail. We will have a number of different options for hikes to this incredible trail, which is part of the Highlands National Park. And we'll offer a number of different excursions, a number of different hikes along here. So there will be, again, multiple different levels of intensity. We will be transferred here by coach. Also a great place, Chetty Camp, to hike around, perhaps to have a lobster roll. Really an interesting place to hang out and explore. I'm not going to cover PEI, but we do stop into Charlottetown. We have optional excursions that will take us to Green Gables. So this is the fictional home of the famous Anne, not Anne Neef, Anne Green Gables, another famous Anne. And we also have the option to go to Lennox Island, which is a Micmac community, First Nation community, which is also one of the optional excursions. And that would be there pictured on PEI, Prince Edward Island. From PEI, we'll head north. There's a possibility we'll stop into the Magdalen Islands. Why would it be a possibility? Well, again, we're going to be looking at what we've already been able to see and get into initially. If we have lots of community visits, perhaps we want to do more wildlife viewing. If we've had more expedition landings based on the conditions that we experience, we may want to stop into to do more community visits. So we do adapt the trip as we go. That's why sometimes option C and option D are the best options that we have available. And also not shown here would be a stop into the south coast of Newfoundland. Often a great place for an expedition landing to explore the coastline, but also again, sometimes we may stop into a community. So we may stop into the remote community of Francois or Francois. This is a fantastic place to experience a kitchen party and the warm welcome of the Newfoundlanders here. 89 people living here from the census in 2016. In 2013, they were given the option to relocate, but they all voted to remain. So a very unique place to visit, only accessible by sea. There are no roads in or out. There is not an airstrip here. But there is a ferry. And we will spend the day in Francois, given the opportunity. Now, all of these expeditions do go international, and that's because we go to France. And if you think, well, France seems like a long way away, it is, but Saint-Pierre and Miquelon is a French colony that is just off the south coast of Newfoundland. And so we'll get to visit here, which is a great way to break out your euros and use your euros. You can try out your French. You can have a French baguette, try some French wine, really just feel like you're going international while staying pretty close to home. It is a really interesting place to walk around, quite colorful and quaint, and we'll spend the day here in Saint-Pierre. Before finishing the trip with a jaunt around the southeast corner of Newfoundland and heading back to St. John's. In St. John's, of course, you have lots of opportunities there, but right before we get there, because of the time of the year, we actually have the opportunity to see icebergs. And these icebergs will have come from a location in the next expedition that I'll talk about, Ilulissat in Greenland. We'll have the opportunity to see icebergs, and this is another reason why we might divert our itinerary based on the different options that we have. So that's our Atlantic Canada Explorer expedition. The dates that you see are the dates for the expedition on board. So you do have those pre-days with Wells Gray as part of that group. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an overview of the expedition. And the expedition for Atlantic Canada Explorer is a fantastic option to be done back-to-back with the Mighty St. Lawrence, which would occur prior, as well as Newfoundland circumnavigation, which would be, Mighty St. Lawrence is a little bit prior. Newfoundland circumnavigation is the one that would be back-to-back with Atlantic Canada Explorer. So great options there for back-to-back trips. And you can see the dates there on your screen. Okay, so jumping to the Arctic a little later in our season, we have 2 High Arctic Explorer expeditions. This is going to be going from Greenland to Resolute, and then the return trip Resolute to Kangerlussuaq, and that's the trip that I'll be covering. This is going to start on August 11th with Wells Gray, and then we're boarding the expedition ship on the 13th. But first, we'll actually be flying from Toronto to Kangerlussuaq, Greenland. This will be approximately a 5.5-hour flight, and this is a private charter flight that takes just our passengers from Canada to Greenland. We spend that day it's an early morning flight. We are going to take a decent amount of time flying up, obviously. We then have to go from the airport to the ship by coach. This is included, but it all takes a bit of time to transfer. We transfer the luggage for you as well, your luggage. Then we're getting onto the Ocean Endeavour and doing our safety briefing. And then we're heading out of Kangerlussuaq Fjord, or Sonderstrom Fjord, I should say. And this Kangerlussuaq means really big fjord. So we are heading out of a really big fjord. It's about 160 kilometers that we're going to be heading out along. Quite dramatic landscape as we're heading along out into the Davis Strait. Up the coast of Greenland, we're going to be visiting Western Greenland and likely stopping into the community of Sisimiut. This is the second largest city in Greenland, of approximately 5,000 people. Very colorful, one of my favorite places to walk around and check out all the different ways that people in Greenland live. Primarily, the industry here is fishing, so lots of fishing boats in the harbor. But there's also lots of arts and different types of crafts that are produced here. So you can actually walk into one of the artist studios and you can see how they produce a number of their different sculptures. And of course, you can support them by buying those sculptures as well. One of my favorite things to look for in Greenland is the wool from muskox, and this is called kiviat. And kiviat is the warmest and softest wool in the world. And it's also, of course, the most expensive, but it is a really special treat. And kiviat toque is just absolutely amazing, super warm, super soft, but just have to break out that credit card a little bit. Okay, so I did mention Ilulissat. This is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and this is home to one of the fastest moving glaciers in the Northern Hemisphere. They say about 90% of the icebergs that you're going to see in the Atlantic are formed out of this fjord here. So we have a full day in Ilulissat. We'll do a community tour with the option to walk up to the boardwalk and into the UNESCO World Heritage Site to see the icebergs that have calved off of Jakobshavn Glacier. The town of Ilulissat is the third largest in Greenland, about 4,600 people living here. We're approximately 250 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle, and there are about 4,600 people, but there are also about 4,600 sled dogs here. So certainly keep an eye out for some of the sled dogs as you're walking around the community. Really the main draw for this location would be these icebergs you see in the background. There are a massive number of icebergs here, all sitting on the moraine. So this is a glacial till moraine. The actual face of the glacier is 40 kilometers up the fjord, and all of these icebergs have calved off of there. And it's an incredible amount of ice. The actual flow rate is 20 to 35 meters per day. So an incredible amount of ice being pushed out. That equates to 20 billion tons of icebergs. Absolutely incredible. And this ice is about 250,000 years old. So this really is the producing the most number of icebergs outside of Antarctica. And they are all different kinds of shapes and sizes. And the waters here are very nutrient rich because of all that glacial till, which allows us to have possible sightings of whales, like the humpback whale pictured here. And David Newland being rather excited about it. Okay, from Western Greenland there, after our first few days in Greenland, we will have a day at sea, and that's crossing over Baffin Bay. We have, as I mentioned before, a lot of different opportunities for different types of presentations. We have theme nights, we have trivia games, lots of fun events on board. And that will be shown here, crossing over from Ilulissat, actually from Disco Bay, over to Pond Inlet. And then what I have circled here is Talaruptiap Amanga, and this is the very newly formed marine protected reserve. And this is going to be where we have really great opportunity to see wildlife as it is a marine protected reserve. This is also the opening to the Northwest Passage, Lancaster Sound. So we're heading into Pond Inlet. This will be one of our first stops into Canada. This is where we'll clear Canadian customs. The town in Inuktitut is called Mitamatilik, or the place where Matalik lives. And you can see in the background here, you can see the community in the foreground, and in the background you have Eclipse Sound and across Eclipse Sound, you have Violet Island. This is a beautiful, beautiful place for incredible vistas of Bylot Island. About 1,700 people living in Pond Inlet. We have a very warm welcome here. As I mentioned, you do clear Canadian customs, but there's nothing really for you to do. That's all done and taken care of by Adventure Canada. So really just enjoying the community, seeing some Arctic games performed, trying some traditional food. Hopefully you can try some bannock and meet some of the community members from Pond Inlet. From Pond Inlet, we'll head north through Navy Board Inlet, up around Bylot Island. Really great opportunity here to see polar bears as we head up to Dundas Harbor, which is located on Devon Island. This is Devon Island is the largest uninhabited island in the world. And the location at Dundas Harbor, as you can see pictured on your screen, is one of the RCMP outposts that was built. It also became a Hudson's Bay Company trading post in the 1930s that is, and then it closed again in 1951, mainly due to difficult ice conditions. And this location was established to have a presence in the Canadian Arctic, as this is right on the Lancaster Sound and the opening to the Northwest Passage. It is an interesting place to walk around. There is a Thule archaeology site. There's also this cemetery, one of the most northerly cemeteries in the world. So definitely quite an interesting place to walk around and hear a little bit more about when you're on board. As we head further west, we get to go to quite a different glacier front. This is Croker Bay, and Ilulissat is the fastest moving glacier. This is a tidewater glacier, so this is going to be a little bit different. It's still quite massive, as you can see. This glacier is about 12,000 square kilometers, so quite large, but not quite the same as the Greenland ice cap. It's about 1,900 meters deep at its deepest, so over almost 2 kilometers above sea level. Really quite incredible. And this is a fantastic opportunity to go for a Zodiac cruise. Well, when I've been here in the past, I have seen a mom and 2 cub polar bears were hunting on sea ice. We've had a number of walrus here. We've had polar bears along, not on the right at the glacier, but actually along the fjord as we've come in on the Ocean Endeavour. And we've also had beluga whales in the shallows here as well. So great wildlife options. Also option would be our kayak program. This is one of the few things that would be an additional cost that's mainly due to the fact that there's only limited space. But if you're interested in joining the kayak program, that's also something to inquire with Wells Gray about. And here are a couple of photos of some of the wildlife that is from Croker Bay. These shots were taken in Croker Bay. A walrus here, the toothwalker, with a young toothwalker. And this was from the 2018 High Arctic Explorer trip that I was on. And this was a mother that we spotted from a distance. We saw a margarine colored spot on the blue-white sea ice. And then we got closer and we saw a couple extra eyes, and then another couple extra eyes popped up, and we realized it was a mother and 2 cubs. And they hung out there sleeping after probably having some seal meat. They were there for a solid hour and a bit while we were exploring Croker Bay. We head a little bit further to the west, and we go to Beachy Island. Beachy Island is actually connected to Devon Island by a little isthmus, so a little tiny, narrow, sandy beach. This UNESCO World Heritage Site is where the rescue missions for Sir John Franklin's expedition, the original expedition, or one of the early expeditions, I should say, to find the Northwest Passage, found any kind of evidence of those expeditions. So Sir John Franklin headed out in 1845 from England. They were destined to go and cross the Northwest Passage. They had modern technology. Modern technology would be canned food. They had lots of beer on board, which was really what they were drinking because that was sanitary water. I don't think that had any role in them losing their way. I think it had a lot to do with the fact that they encountered a lot of sea ice. And we visit the location here of where the graves are from 3 of the men that perished on Sir John Franklin's expedition. And there's a 4th grave from a sailor that perished on a subsequent mission to see if they could find Franklin's men. And I know that Wells Gray, especially Roland and Anne, were quite, and Kerrie's parents as well, were quite excited in, I think this would have been 2019 when they were on the Out of the Northwest Passage expedition, to actually be the first group of tourists to visit the HMS Terror. So quite an, sorry, HMS Erebus, I believe it was. Quite an incredible sight. They were able to see Barks Canada representatives bringing up archaeology items that were pulled out from the ship. So quite a cool history, a bit of history there. When we're actually on Beachy Island, we do stop into the grave site and obviously, honor those men that perished. But we also do get to go to Northumberland House, which is at the other end. But this would be our last destination before we then go to Resolute and join the charter flight to then fly south down to Ottawa. So that will be our round trip, our open jaw. You can see here again the map showing the full expedition going from Toronto to Kangerlussuaq, up the coast of Greenland, across Baffin Bay, and over to Baffin Island, and going into the Northwest Passage to Resolute and flying back down to Ottawa, to Canada. So there's an overview of the whole season. Once again, we covered the Atlantic Canada Explorer, shown in gold or dark orange on the bottom of the screen, visiting Sable Island for a couple days, and then we covered High Arctic Explorer, going from Kangerlussuaq to Resolute, the green line there shown more on the upper part of the screen. All of these trips again are run back to back as a series. They are really capitalizing on the best opportunities to travel in these areas. If you are interested in doing more than one trip in a season, whether they're back to back or two separate trips like the Atlantic Canada Explorer and High Arctic Explorer, we do offer 10% savings if you do 2 trips in a season. We are, as a family company, we're promoting multi-generational travel, and we're very family friendly. There's no minimum age, no maximum age. We are predominantly about 55 to 75 would be our main demographic, but we are seeing more and more families traveling together. And for those under the age of 30, we do offer 30% off. I didn't mention when I talked about the different cabin categories, but we have an incredible solo traveler program. About 25% occupancy on board would be for single travelers. That includes a number of single cabins in categories 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And what that means is single travelers can sign up for their own cabin and they do not pay a single supplement. Unfortunately, at this point, we don't have any cabins available for Atlantic Canada Explorer for free single supplements, but we do for the High Arctic Explorer expedition. So certainly inquire with Wells Gray and see if you can snag one of those because they do sell pretty quickly. For those who have traveled with us in the past, we do have our loyalty program. This would be our League of Adventurers, which offers you further savings. As soon as you've done one expedition with Adventure Canada, you're going to be receiving an additional 5% off the berth cost. This is in conjunction and in combination with all the different offers that we have. So a great way to save. Once you started to really adventure further and you become one of our esteemed members, having done 5 expeditions, when you book your 6th trip, you will actually receive 10% additional savings, again, in combination. When we launch a season, like this upcoming season in 2023, we do have an early booking special of 15%. So you could certainly save quite a bit by being one of our loyal members. And this overview here is for the first few expeditions in 2023. I'm giving you a sneak peek before we launch in about 3 weeks or so. Mid-July, we're going to be launching our 2023 season. And Wells Gray has a group going on board for Scotland slowly. So I know that some of you may have even been registered in the past for this that we had to cancel in 2021. Which would be, I guess, probably right around now, this trip would be running. Oh, hurts me a little bit to think that we're not traveling, but we're so close. And if you would like to go on board Scotland slowly in 2023, great opportunity here to join with Wells Gray, a fantastic expedition to join for the Inner and Outer Hebrides, the Orkneys, the Shetlands, to see those puffins and some of the different locations of natural history, like the Standing Stones of Stennis and the Ring of Brodgar. So that's all the different all the things that we are covering today. There are a few different things that I believe I didn't cover. We did just recently actually decrease the price on some of the cabins, the higher end suites for the High Arctic Explorer expedition. So if that's something you're interested in, certainly inquire with Wells Gray and find out about those cabins. And this is another little sneak peek. There's a couple sneak peeks actually that I have. We have a new promotion coming out on the 28th of June. And so we're giving you early advance notice and opportunity to book in for 15% on the 2022 expeditions that I covered today. And if you're interested in one of the other expeditions, certainly let Wells Gray know and inquire there. So that you can take off to one of these incredible expeditions. And Kerrie, where would you take off to?
Oh, that was so fantastic. I just relived my entire Arctic experience, and I honestly could do that trip all over again. Just seeing the zodiacs in front of those icebergs, there's just something about being in nature that humbles us. And I think being connected to nature just makes us better humans. And all the photography used today, I know, was taken on your tours, and I even recognized a couple of people in them. And seeing the walruses and the polar bears, I loved the Arctic. I would love to do the Northwest Passage, but I also grew up riding horses, and my mom still has a horse, and seeing the Sable Island in Atlantic Canada. I haven't done the east coast of Canada, and I think Sable Island is such a pristine, special place. So I'm willing to go ahead and just give you my Visa card number right now. Yeah, honestly, if anyone has any questions about traveling with Adventure Canada, I am more than happy to answer them. You can email me or give me a call here at the Kelowna office. I can reassure you that the safety and the organization and the passion that Martin talked about today is 5-star. You will experience nothing but the best traveling with Adventure Canada. So I'm very proud to be selling this product, and I really thank you for being with us this morning, Martin, and it gives us a wonderful overview of both of these trips.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you, Kerrie.
I can't wait to travel. Oh my goodness.
Me too.
Scotland slowly is also on my list. So I guess I have 3 trips that I'd like to book with you.
Okay.
Okay. But to help our guests in the audience, we'd like to try to help you win a little bit of money today to put towards a new booking with Adventure Canada. So Martin, do you mind not just unsharing your screen? I'll reshare my screen.
Yep.
And I'm going to go ahead and do the draw. Great. All right. Martin, can you see the wheel spinning away there?
Yep, I can.
Great. Okay, so we're going to do 2 $500 credits towards any new booking on Adventure Canada. So here we go. I should have put my name in here.
I know, I'm thinking the same thing.
Okay, we've got Barbara Nels. You are our first lucky winner. So I have your information and I will get hold of you just in case you are not joining us this morning. So congratulations. I'm going to do one more draw. Okay, and our second lucky winner is Claudette Bowers. So congratulations, Claudette. And I will also get hold of you right away.
Wonderful. Congratulations.
That's really exciting. Now I'm just going to pop into our chat box. If anyone in our audience has a question, please feel free to go ahead and put it in the chat and we will try to answer it as best we can. So I have one coming in. And it is asking how many other ships will be in the area at the same time. not sure exactly what area, but generally speaking, most of the places you travel are very remote. But you go ahead there, Martin.
Yeah, that's a really good question. There is organization in terms of our logistics that we have to take care of in advance. So there are permits for many of the different locations that we go to. With having uh, received the permits, that means that we would be the only ship that would be in certain locations. However, that's not always the case. Like Ilulissat is probably one of the, let me say, busier places. The most number of ships I've seen there would be 3. But most of the time we do have good communication with the other operators, and we're all really wanting to be in these remote places, to enjoy that, the experience of being there and not feeling like it's, a city. So typically there's a lot of great cooperation to make it so that we're there exclusively in the different locations. But again, in certain places like Beachy Island, Dundas Harbor, you need permits to be there. There are special requirements for us. And so that means that we would be the only ship in that location in those times.
Yeah, I can say on the Arctic trip, I did it in the opposite direction, but we never saw another ship the entire trip until we were in Ilulissat, can't even say that right now.
Ilulissat, yeah.
Ilulissat, and there was one other ship in port, and they had docked earlier, so we really didn't even see the people. So you really are going quite remote.
Yeah, in Ilulissat, when we were there, and there were actually 3 ships. One was heading out, so there were 2 ships, and we coordinated it. So one group of passengers was for a Zodiac cruise, and then we switched and went into the community. So it wasn't really an issue at all, and that's a rare instance too, just so you know.
Yeah. Then we have another question coming in as asking the temperatures in these areas. Wondering if this is referring to the Arctic, I'm guessing.
Good question. For the High Arctic Explorer program, we're in August, so you're going to have close to 24 hours of sunlight. You're going to probably have an average temperature in the 12 to 15 degrees Celsius range in the day, in the sun. And that would also be when you're not right on the water. It is the Arctic Ocean, so you're going to have cooler breezes. So always recommending to have multiple layers on, even if it is warm and sunny, and then you can take your jacket off and your fleece off when you're out on the land, because you're going to warm up when you're hiking. But definitely on the Zodiacs, you want to have your waterproof gear on, because even on the brightest, sunniest, warmest day, you can still have little splashes of cool Arctic water on you. When we get closer to like Beachy Island, it's probably going to be more like an 8-degree day, sometimes even a little cooler. Yeah, Greenland is a little bit warmer than Baffin Island, and then we get a little cooler as we go up into the Northwest Passage. So be prepared. Bring a pair of shorts, especially for if you're doing the yoga classes on board and those kind of things. But likely you're going to want to have your waterproof gear on, and then layers so that you can change and adjust as the temperature changes.
Yeah, we had some nice warm days, t-shirt weather, and then the opposite extreme where you need a fleece and a jacket, just depending on the wind and the sun, like you mentioned. The 24-hour sunlight is absolutely amazing, which means there's wildlife opportunities at all times of day. I don't think I slept very much on that trip because you're just so excited all the time. And one of my favorite things they do on board Adventure Canada is the expedition leader will come on and announce everything right into your stateroom. So you will hear in the morning, good morning. You'll hear the weather, the temperature, what the ice is doing, if there's a wildlife spotting, where it is, what degrees, which deck. And so you're just so informed the whole time. It's so well organized.
The other thing I should mention about the staterooms is that they all have TVs that are connected to the cameras in the lounges. So when the presentations are happening, you can actually hang out in your own lounge if you'd like, so that you can relax and kick your feet up on your bed to watch the presentations on the TVs if you feel like you want to just relax a little bit further rather than being in the lounge for the presentation.
All right, any other final questions from our audience? It doesn't look like we have any more. Well, that means we answered. It's a wonderful overview. And I know if you do have any further questions, please contact your local Wells Gray Tours office. We can forward them on to Martin and find out anything you'd like to know. I want to say on behalf of Wells Gray Tours this morning, thank you to Martin and Adventure Canada for being such wonderful partners and taking this time this morning to teach us a bit more about your amazing product. So thank you so much.
My pleasure, Kerrie. It was wonderful to be here. I hope everybody has a great day.
Yeah, so have a wonderful day, and I will send out the recording and a couple of the links for you as well. So thank you so much. Take care.